on, Frank. You're on.
Good morning. Hi, I'm Frank Messina, and this is the October 15, 2024 meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission. Before we start, we have a couple of notices.
Unknown participant is now joining.
This meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify the chairman. Seeing none. Pursuant to Governor Haley's March 29, 2023 signing of the Acts of 2023, extending certain COVID-19 measure adopted during the state of emergency and suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law 3820, until March 31st, 2025, this meeting of the Chatham Historical Commission is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to the meeting while it is in progress may do so by calling the phone number 508-945-4410. Conference ID 767-380-818, #, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link on the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Okay. Having said that, I have to do the roll call, but I will acknowledge before we do the roll call that one of our dear members, Stephen Burlingame, who was the clerk of the commission, had passed away last week, and so I know we all feel pretty sad finding out about this very recently. Steve was a very good member of the commission and very involved in the and how we proceeded, and had some great ideas. I loved sparring with him, but it was always good-natured, and just going to miss Steve. So having said that, roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Steve? Excuse me. I did it, didn't I? Nancy Burlingame? Nancy Barr?
Here.
Stephanie Hamilton?
Here.
Sandy Porter?
Here.
Janet Tennyson?
Here.
Robert Stevens?
Here.
Chair is here. I apologize, a little bit of a hiccup there. Gonna miss Steve. Okay. We have the minutes, and right now I got to start before I even discuss the minutes. Annie, you did a great job. And, you know, that whole discussion as it relates to the discussion, you know, the infamous discussion, as it relates to the chimneys, I think you captured both sides very well, and I do appreciate that. Very good. It, you know, someone reading what happened at the meeting gets a good sense of what happened. Having said that, any other comments or questions or concerns on the minutes?
I'd like to move that we accept the minutes of October 1st, 2024.
Thank you very much.
Second.
Second, thank you. Okay, a quick roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Abstain, I
Stephanie?
wasn't here.
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
The chair votes yes. So I guess you abstain. Thank you,
did.
Nancy. Appreciate that. All right. All right, we have effectively two applications to be heard this morning and a couple of old new business things to discuss briefly, and not much else on the agenda. So having said that, we'll proceed to the first application. Application 24026 1314 Main Street, Unit 10. This is a notice of a change, or as we refer to it, as a partial demolition of a structure which meets the basic requirements of the Chapter 158, which is the Town of Chatham's bylaw. It is more than 75 years old, and I know there were some questions of why am I here? And unfortunately, or fortunately, these units, as a lot of the units in town, have begun to cross the threshold of 75 years. And as a result of that, it forms under the jurisdiction of the Historical Commission. Just for members of the public and for the members of the commission, I think the map that Christina put out showing the compilation of homes in the I guess they refer to it as Waterview Colony, and there's 2 or 3 colony communities there in Chatham, which are really quite interesting. And we haven't actually done Form Bs on the individual homes, but we have done an area form of the cottages, and we just recently updated that with our good friend Eric Dre in 2016. Having said that,
Frank, could I interpose a question?
Yes, sir.
You did not mention whether Mr. Stevens is voting today.
I'm sorry?
You didn't mention whether Mr. Stevens is our voting member today?
Yes, I apologize. Thank you very much. Well, by definition, Robert, you are a full voting member and will participate in addition to participating and also be a voting member of the commission. We have
Excuse me?
7 members person. Yes.
I'm sorry. This is going back to the minutes.
I'm
and
sorry?
This is just going back to the minutes. I apologize, but I wasn't here. But I glanced over them as we were sitting here. And at 368 Stage Harbor, or 369 Stage Harbor, there is a note in the minutes that a motion was made, and 2 motions were made in relation to being in the National Register District. And I think that's,
Eligible National Register District. Does it say eligible?
no, it says a contributing structure in a National Register District. And
Okay.
that wouldn't be referred to the Cape Cod Commission. I just think that
Well,
may
it
be.
can be referred to the Cape Cod Commission.
Okay.
Yes, it can. Well, sorry,
Okay.
we're going
So we are-
backwards. I apologize.
So when
I
we have
apologize
an
for the
eligible
public. I'm
district,
back. I'm
we are
sorry?
still, when we have a district that's eligible but not yet created, we still go through the district
All right, well, we
voting.
can discuss that.
Okay, I was just making
offline,
sure, yeah,
but-
yeah, absolutely.
But if it says, does it say eligible, Annie?
No,
Okay. All right, so we're going to need, I apologize, 1340. We're going to go backwards a bit. So we need another motion to amend the minutes, which were just approved, to include the word eligible in the minutes.
I so move.
And I second.
Thank you, Nancy. Eagle eye. Okay. All right, quick roll call. Bob?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
And Nancy abstains.
I do.
All right, I apologize for that. Very simply, without belaboring it, according to the Cape Cod Commission, a district which is in an eligible National Register district, we're allowed to make a discretionary referral versus a mandatory referral. There's a difference between a discretionary referral and a mandatory. Mandatory referral, if it's more than 25%, automatic referral to the Cape Cod Commission or other elements. Okay, thank you. Luckily, I have a number of members of the commission who keep me on the straight and narrow. Okay, I really apologize for that little bit of interruption. So again, 1340 Main Street, we have the property owner here online. Can you speak up? We can't hear you, or at least I can't hear you.
No, she's muted.
could they get the full picture of her on the
Can you hear
screen?
me now?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, sorry about that. I had you on mute. I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt your call.
yes. And can you introduce yourself?
So my name is Tara DeVenti, and my husband and I recently inherited this cottage from my parents. And we have a 27-year-old son who has cerebral palsy, who's in a power wheelchair. So we wanted to, am I tell you all that about me yet, or no? Sorry, I just went off. Wanted to turn our deck into a sunroom, and that's what is allowed by the Waterview Colony, like Homeowners Association. You're allowed to turn your decks into sun porches. So we thought we would try that, so we have easy access into the house.
Well, I want to just preface this all by thanking you very much for owning that beautiful little cottage and taking care of it. As I prefaced in a couple of comments earlier, this is just a treasure trove of historical, we consider historical, cottages from an era back in Chatham, when it was a cottage community, and we just love the fact that you folks are taking care of it. Having said that, I think I'm biasing my opinion, but why don't we go? So if the application is, as we see it, you're really looking for I would have to say, a relatively modest change to the back of the cottage. And I was interested also that you, and I didn't realize that you have an association that also approves your changes?
Correct, right. So you can't do any changes unless you get approval from the trustees. We have like a board of trustees so all you have to file like a, architectural change request form, and then they approve it or disapprove it, or give you, tell you what you need to do to get approved. So, yeah.
Quite.
So the one change we're allowed to make is decks into porches,
Well,
like a sun porch. Yeah.
I personally think that's wonderful because it provides an additional measure of, I hate to use the word, but I guess protection, that suddenly this doesn't turn into a mass development,
Right.
of large homes in Chatham. And by the way, we have a couple of openings on the Historical Commission. If some of the members of your Architecture Review Board would like to come sit here,
Okay, good to know.
pass the word.
I will definitely
Yeah.
pass
You
the
need to
word.
be a
I know we have some,
You need to be a full-time resident, but, we do appreciate that. All right,
thank you.
so I think it's kind of straightforward. Does anybody have any questions or comments? We'll start with Bob. Robert?
I have a comment. As some of you know, I'm chair of the Town Committee for People with Disabilities, and I think this is an excellent idea.
Unknown
In order
participant
to
is now
continue
joining.
use of a historic property, and we want to encourage the use of or maintaining historic properties, and if we were to turn this down, we would be doing exactly the opposite. So I'm all in favor of it.
Thank you very much. Robert?
Thank you.
Well, at the site visit, the thing that stood out for me is that most of these cottages have already had this same or similar alteration to enclosing the deck to add square footage. So it seems to me the house is, the horse is out of the barn if we had any problems with this.
Thank you very much. Sandy?
I have no problem with it at all. I just have a question. You gave us a diagram showing footings. Do you have to put in new footings?
Yeah, I think that because my parents bought the house in 78. I was 13. So my dad built that deck. So I believe, we're going to do the whole thing again just because of the age, So, yeah, I'm going to put new footings in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
Thank you. I love it, actually, so thank you.
Janet?
I have no questions. I think it's a great idea. In fact, that the association is so cooperative and working together. I mean, the fact that it's pale, they're all, blend into the woods like it does, it's just gorgeous. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I totally
Yeah,
agree
sure.
with Bob. It would be terrible if we did not allow this.
Nancy?
Thank you very much.
I mean, I agree with what's been said. I just say for clarity that it's on the side of the house, and once you add the sunroom, the exterior wall that is being shown on the left there, the changes
Right.
that are being made to that, it becomes an interior wall, so it's not going to be visible one way or the other
Right.
to the exterior once they build the sunroom. And the new sunroom has the door, the exterior door then on the front that allows the egress entrance. So
Right.
I agree with what everybody said and just wanted to clarify, because I think it took us a while to figure out that what's being demolished is now going to be an interior wall. So whatever is being lost would
Right,
not be
exactly.
visible anyways.
Yeah, well, thank you very much.
Right.
We seem to
Right.
have a pretty much unanimous opinion, so now we've got to go through a couple of motions to clarify and to fill it out. Bob? Robert?
Hey, you want to do it? I move the Chatham Historical Commission finds that the structure located at 1340 Main Street, Unit Number 10, is historically significant because it is in whole or in part 75 years old or more, and possesses architectural value or significance in terms of period and style in conjunction with a group of buildings or structures which is part of the Waterview colony.
Okay, we have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Members of the public, for or against the application? Seeing none? Okay. Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. We appreciate your cooperation and coming before
Frank,
us.
Frank, we need another,
Oh,
another
one
motion.
more, sorry about that.
Sorry.
Forget there's a part two.
Chatham Historical Commission also finds that the proposed work to be done, it looks like September 18th, 2024, will not materially diminish the historic significance of the building, and therefore the commission does not impose demolition delay.
I'll second.
Thank you very much. Any comments for or against the application? Bob?
Yes.
Nancy?
Yes.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I wanted to thank everyone for taking the time to really consider this, and it means a lot to us, and it's nice to know that people.
Yeah, can you do me a favor?
Sure.
Because
Sure.
the reporter, the technical people are banging on the window there, and they just introduce yourself and,
Hi, I'm Andrew Whittick. I'm Tara DeVenti's brother. I'm also a trustee of Waterview Colony Condominium Association. And I was just thanking everyone for the time they invested in this and the due diligence they took. We really appreciate it. It's nice when the town takes time and really makes sure things are done on the up and up. And I appreciate it very much, and my family does too.
well, we appreciate your appreciation, trust me. Because, you know, nice guys, we don't always get nice things. But we do, and I really do mean that. We appreciate the fact that, you know, you guys are holding this colony together, and hopefully you'll be here another 50, another 75 years, just the same way. And still, the fact that you can enjoy it, you know, what's all about Chatham. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Love it. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Okay. We have an application 24017, which is...
Unknown participant is now exiting.
Did I miss something?
No, keep going.
That's all right. 24017, 75 Hallway Street. This application is going to be heard under Chapter 158, the demolition delay bylaw, as well as under the Provision 12C of the Cape Cod Commission Regional Policy Plan for a structure situated in a National Registered District. Okay, this application has been around a while. I guess it
Unknown
was originally.
participant is now exiting.
Is that us or somebody else out there?
You're okay. It's,
Okay. This application has been around for a while, and we've continued it a number of times, back since August 13th. I want to just preface this. It really came before the commission first in 2006, 2007, and has been for us about 6 or 7 times, and which there were changes which the commission found were, although historically significant, we did not make referral to the Cape Cod Commission. This particular application, which I do as a normal course of things, when I have a contributing structure in the National Register District, I consult with the preservation consultant, Sarah Korjeff, from the Cape Cod Commission over an application that could or could not be referred to the Cape Cod Commission, and get her opinion. So you have her comments back from August 8th, where she commented about the contributing structure and her thoughts about what we could or could not do, and her opinion on how we could potentially resolve this situation. Having said that, hi. Mr. Riley, before we begin, I noticed Mr. Ahern is in the audience, and I want to thank you very much for the work you're doing on Stage Harbor Road. It was finally nice to see that house getting buttoned up and back. I think it's going to really be a really nice addition to the street. So anyway, just aside. Mr. Riley.
Good morning. Bill Riley on behalf of Joan Ann Barsamian. And a little hyperbole there, Frank. I don't think we've been here 6 or 7 times, but I know we've been here at least 4 times.
No, the application 6.
So this is a situation where this property was originally owned by the Whiting family, and the last member of the Whiting family who owned it, a guy named Fairfield Whiting, was a unique individual. And so as the house was significantly larger and was subject to loss as a result of erosion of the property in front of it. So this property used to be another 100 feet out into the water. So, and then so they tore down parts of the building, and then they took the remnant and boarded it up and did nothing with it for years while the building suffered the kind of damage that happens to waterfront structures that aren't properly cared for. The Barsamian family loved the location and the concept, and so they bought the building and the property from the Whiting family. At that time, Fairfield was living in a trailer in a junkyard up in Vermont somewhere. And so at that time, there was a meeting here. I was not representing the Barsamians, I think it was Michael Ford, but I happened to be here, how unusual. And the concerns expressed by the members, I particularly remember Don Aikman talking about it, that the only thing that was worth salvaging at that point was the framing of the building. And so that's what the Barsamians did. They took off the sheeting, the shingles, the sheeting, and rebuilt the building from the frame both in and out. At that time, the property was located in a floodplain, so our ability to do work on the building was very limited. Then FEMA changed their maps and moved the floodplain further away from our building. So that gave us the opportunity to elevate the building and put living space below the first floor. And as time went on, and the family requirements of the Barsamians grew, they made, further changes, expanded the first floor, the main floor, put the deck on the front. All the while, of course, the original framing still remains. When Sarah Korjeff was consulted about this particular change, or about the previous changes, she indicated there were a couple of things that she thought were significant that should be preserved. And Patrick's going to explain how those elements are still preserved. They'd like to add another bedroom to the property on what we call the second floor, although it looks like a third floor. So what I'd like to do at this point is ask Patrick to come up and go through the process he went through to come up with this design.
Bill, what part of my comments do you consider hyperbole? I mean, the fact that this application.
6 or 7.
The application been before us in 2006 was the first time
Yeah,
that this property is before us.
that's
So
right.
we've seen numerous changes, and I don't consider that hyperbole. That's just what the facts were, Bill.
You said 7, you said 6 or 7 times. We haven't been here 6 or 7 times.
The application, the property has been here 6 or 7 times. In fact, I even asked you, Bill, I sent you an email, and I said, could you please calculate the percentage of change to this property? And then you responded to me, you haven't, so I don't think it's hyperbole, Bill. I'm trying to get to factual basis. If, in fact, this commission decides to make a referral to the Cape Cod Commission, the percentage of change since the original property was listed on the National Register is a function of whether or not we can make a mandatory referral. And it's as simple as that. And I don't consider it hyperbole. Thank you.
All right, Frank.
All right. Thank you very much.
Patrick?
Can I ask a clarifying question about the application that we have before us?
Yes.
Just for somebody to answer at some point during your presentation, is what we have now the same design that we received in August before it was continued?
No.
Okay. Can you please explain the differences when you give your presentation?
Sure.
Thank you.
So
So for
this is
those of you
different
who
than
don't know
August?
me, my
Excuse
name
me
is
one
Patrick
second.
Ahern.
I'm sorry, Patrick, 1 second. So the one I have is the current one?
That is the current one.
Okay, good. Sorry, we
But
got
Sarah's
confused.
letter was in
Yes, and
relation to but the letter we have from Sarah is in relation to the previous plan.
Say that again?
The letter we have from Sarah with her input is in relation to the previous plan, which has changed. So I just wanted to hear.
Sarah's email is from August, and she looked at the plans that were presented to us, and, you had briefly seen them, but you had not deliberated or anything on them. Then her email was from the plans that they first gave us in August.
Okay, so we have.
And now there has been changes since.
When did we get this?
Get this?
Yeah.
When did you file a revised plan?
Some weeks ago.
I'm not sure when we.
This is dated October 15th.
That's the date that, today they were coming. I can check when these came in, I'm not sure. I know I have one stamped somewhere.
Okay. Well, let's try and clarify something. Patrick, why don't you introduce yourself, and then we'll go formally from there.
Yes, my name is Patrick Ahern, architect, and I could, Frank, perhaps give you a little clarity on that. So we received, and Robbie spoke to Sarah on that second most recent application, and that we wanted to respond to some of the concerns that were brought forward in terms of the height of the addition and so on, so that the plans that we're presenting today reflect the commentary that we received, and we've made adjustments to be responsive to what those comments were.
Okay, all right, so I guess we're gonna have to go back to Sarah again. I'm sorry we delayed that. We don't have to do it now. We can continue, okay, but I still would like to
Sure.
give Sarah's comments one more time.
Right.
Okay, fine.
Okay, great. So if we could perhaps go to page 19, I believe, or page 18. The little numbers are off in the right corner. There we go. So
See on our part.
we've got these two photo montages, which I think are important. The little arrow clicker,
Bless you.
the pointer. Oh, here.
Just give us the page number, it's hard to see.
Page 18.
Thank you.
So the photo down below shows context of what's existing today, and then up above shows the proposed changes, which really no change to the footprint, but really dealing with the modifications to the roof area. It's about 535 square feet. If we could go to page 19, please. In context, then, as we blow back further, you see that the character, scale, and volume of many of the houses around it are significantly higher and much more square footage as we go down the street as well. So when we think about context and scale of the neighborhood, this is also an oversized lot of over 26,000 square feet. So it's the second largest lot, other than the hotel down at the end of the street. So I think that's important to note.
Do you have another drawing showing it from the streetscape?
We have a number of straight-on elevations as well that I can go through and show you. So if we go to page 15. So this is what's existing now, and this just shows the change. So from the ridge, by raising the ridge, it's about 5 foot 2 inches taller at the highest point. But as you can see that, and I would characterize, if this was built and the shingles were weathered, and if we go back to the montage photograph, it doesn't feel like an addition. It really feels as though it's how this house might have been renovated and redesigned in 2006, 2008 completion. And it fits well into the scale of the streetscape. You look at the height and the volume of the immediate house here, the Greek Revival farmhouse, which is significantly taller. But many of the houses along the street are much, much larger on smaller lots. So from our point of view as the architect, we were given the challenge of how to provide for a little bit larger living space, same number of bedrooms, but a little more living space and gathering space. The Barsamian kids are all, grown up at this point, and they come with their friends and so on, and they needed more living space. So we were able to reconfigure the interior to provide more living space on the first floor, and then by this modest change, we're able to get the master bedroom to be upstairs and away from the family. So that's what precipitated this to come before you today. What we originally submitted back in August, that this addition was more volumetric, and we lowered it 3 or 4 feet about, to be more responsive, and just lowered the volume to, one, not only have it relate in scale to how the house presents itself today, but also in the neighborhood context. So I think the comments that we received, I think were very appropriate, and we took it very positively to help guide the design direction in a way that we think is kind of a non-addition, if you will. So that's my initial presentation, Frank.
Okay, I apologize for the confusion. You know, when I looked at the agenda and discussed it, you know, we were talking about a continuation of the previous application from August 13th. I was unaware, at least, that we really have a new application, that you revised it. And obviously, because it's revised, I was looking at the old drawings,
Understood.
not the new drawings, and I'm now looking today at the new drawings. And so I would, at a minimum, propose, we can talk about it a little bit more, that I will refer these to Sarah Corja for additional comments. Her opinion is very important to us. The act of approval or referral to the Cape Cod Commission, we rarely do it, as you know, that we rarely do it.
Right.
And quite honestly, it's the Cape Cod Commission's druthers, if that's a good word, maybe not a technical word, that, you know, try to resolve it locally, you know, and work it out. And that's what we try to do. But we generally use Sarah's comments as a guidance, because quite honestly, she's got a lot more technical expertise in architecture. I'm a lowly electrical engineer, you know, than I do or we do. We're just a bunch of well-meaning volunteers. Thank you. That was
That's
a comment.
That's a history comment.
That's a comment between me and my friend, Mr. Raleigh, my fellow sailing racing partner. But anyway, so allow us to do that. Having said that, okay, I just quickly would like to get comments from the members of the commission. But, you know, what you're referring to for the seascape, which is great, it's interesting. You know, we have authority on seascape as well as streetscape. And on the seascape, you're right. It is, what you're proposing is consistent in some ways with the other ones, but that's not what we're about. We're about the individual house, which is a contributing structure in a National Register District, and what has happened. And Sarah's comments, basically, you know, when you look at it, the scale of what you're proposing is a little bit different. And we go from a 1, 2 to a 3-story structure. So, you know, that's my opinion. But let's go around the commission, and we'll start again with Robert. Robert, Bob, either one.
I'll do it. And I mentioned this to Mr. Riley on Friday, that I still have some concerns or lack of knowledge regarding what a substantial alteration, how that should be defined and applied. And my understanding is that the commission has gone by the idea that what was approved by, for inclusion in the National Historic Register is the starting point. Now, it's not what's there now, it's what was there when this building was approved as part of the National Register.
Right.
And we don't have that information, at least not precisely, but I will say that I've been going down to the Hallway Street Beach for over 60 years, so I'm very familiar with the area. And it seems to me that the picture on page 31 of the application is what was there then, or maybe, since there's a reference to part of that suffering from the break in it says 1991, I believe it was 1987, the building that was there.
It's really page 3 is where we started. Look at the picture on page 3. That's what was there when the Barsamians took ownership.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is the same as that's on page
31.
30. So anyway, looking at it from that vantage point, which I think is what we're supposed to do, there is absolutely no question that there's been a substantial alteration.
I agree.
And it's basically unrecognizable from what was there before. As Frank said, it was a small shack, now it's a three-story house. I can't see anything other than to refer that to the Cape Cod Commission, so unless I learn something different between now and the next hearing.
Well, I would suggest that every change we've made has been a substantial alteration. All you have to do is look at what's there. And so the original framing is still there. That's what Don Aikman, God rest his soul, that was his concern at that time. And so, yes, we've added, again, every single change we've made has been a substantial alteration. Because when you start with that and then move on to the lower picture, that's a substantial alteration.
Yes.
So, I mean, whether you refer it or not is up to you. It would seem to me that if a referral is going to be made, it should have been made then. So.
Is that your no deed, good deed goes unpunished rubric there?
That's one way to say it.
That's one way to look at it, yeah.
But in terms of, I guess the question is, what's the point of referring it now?
Well, I would also just comment, since I was not involved with any of these earlier changes,
Understand.
but when we did get involved recently, I reviewed the files and the history and so on. And I would just, as a somewhat outsider at the time, when I reviewed the packet, all of the changes that had been before here 6 times, 7 times, whatever it may be, none of those changes were referred to the Cape Cod Commission.
Absolutely not. You're absolutely correct. As I gave a little bit of speech earlier, we prefer not to.
Right.
We try to find a way to minimize the substantial alteration. And yes, we know that the changes, as Mr. Riley, as Bill indicated, were substantial. But, we reach a point, it's Chatham, it ain't Nantucket.
Right.
We don't tell you what color to paint the front door, and we try to make.
Or what the door knocker is either, don't forget that.
That's true. But we try to allow certain amount of change, evolution, okay? And you're right, Bill, right. Every one of those previous ones, I remember here as Don sat there and Don sat here. He was chairman when I first started this.
Right.
But, it was difficult. We said, well, if we're going to save something, at least make sure we save as much as the original, historic material. And Don was really big on that, okay?
That's right.
But we kind of took a deep breath and we said, no, we're not going to refer it. We'll allow it. And all I'm saying, at least my view, because it seemed to be getting into a personal conversation, is that I think we've gone a bit too far with this one. And that's the point. Now, I'm not making a decision. I would like to get Sarah's comments and that's my opinion. But anyway, Robert, did you go?
Be happy to. I'm a newer member to the commission, so I have no history with the 6 or 7 times that they've been
Neither do
here.
I.
And I want to thank the family and the folks up there on the podium for giving a presentation that we can actually understand. The photos and the drawings we can digest them and see what it is you're asking for. I agree with Bob on many of the things that he said. And I've read Sarah's most recent letter, but now I've just learned this morning that that's not dealing with this set of plans. It's dealing with something that preceded that. So I guess where my curiosity lies here is how there can be such a big disconnect between what the commission or what the Old Village Association and then what is being presented. So it seems to me that the energy ought to be focused on trying to find some solution for this. If it's been 6 or 7 times here, maybe we should press the Cape Cod Commission for a little bit greater guideline on what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And that'd be all I'm saying. So I'm not saying yes or no to anything. I just,
Right.
it just seems like this has dragged on for a long time, and
Well,
what's in the
think-
letter isn't in the proposal.
Right. I think, in fairness to the Barsamians, that when some of the commentary came back, rather than stay with the plan, we had a conversation about what we should do and how we should be responsive to some of the comments, particularly as it related to volume. And so, trying to be the good listener from the comments we got, that's what this represents today. So I agree. I think Sarah really should weigh in on the changes because she's not aware of them. I don't believe at this point. So I think that would be a very important next step to get her feedback. And again, with all due respect to Bob, since what's there now never went to the Cape Cod Commission, I think she may be looking at this slightly differently and saying, well, what's there now, and then what we're proposing, what are those changes, and are they significant in terms of how the Cape Cod Commission would view that 530 square foot difference, basically changing the roof line. There's no change to the footprint. And that input, I think, would be important, not going back to the what you see on the top, because that doesn't exist anymore, and that was never referred to them. So when we look at what we have today, how does this, in the context of the neighborhood and the character and the scale, how does that weigh in with what the Cape Cod Commission's goals and objectives might be?
Patrick, you're absolutely right. But reading Sarah's memo, now I don't know what your changes were, how significantly you changed it, but looking at the original application, the proposed work would expand the basement level and not change the massing of the original historic structure. The current structure would create an additional story, alter the roof line and form so that the historic structure the original historic structure is indistinguishable. And, she goes back to the original.
Right.
But I don't want to preempt what Sarah could say. And because I'm sure you do, you can talk to her. She's.
No, she's very
and,
reasonable.
you could find ways to do it, and I think we might be able to, one more time,
Right,
okay?
right.
Find a way to allow it to go forward, hopefully.
Right.
It's not our intention just to blanketly, do it.
Right,
And
and
that's my
I
opinion.
believe that Robbie did have a conversation with her
Yeah.
recently
Okay.
in that same regard, to give her a little more of the history and understand the events that have occurred over a long period of time and where the house went from 1930 kind of shack to where it is today and how it got there, and then what the response is. But I would very much like to have the same opportunity, once she has a chance to review the current plans, to have that conversation and see if we can get to a middle ground that makes sense.
I want you to know, we got a lot of flack by approving the previous ones. So,
Rumor has it.
yeah, right. But why don't we just quickly go around the rest of the
Frank.
commission, and then I think we're agreeing we should continue it with Sarah, but,
Frank,
Sandy?
oh, Frank,
I'm sorry.
over here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry, just to interject something, since we're talking about potentially another plan, would you please date it, especially now that we're going to have 3 versions?
It's dated October 15th, 2024, the
It
cover.
would be helpful if the pages are all numbered too, since many of them are, some are the same, and
Well, we
it's
submitted
not
a whole
plan- it's-
packet, but I'm happy to date every page.
I understand that. I'm merely asking and saying it's more convenient, and if this was
Not
a
a problem.
more formal setting, it would be required that the individual pages be dated, so. Especially since today, the plans are not done on October 15th, I assume.
No.
Okay. Sorry, Bob. Yes.
Good morning. I'd like to see how Sarah weighs in. I've been looking at it. It's quite a change, just from what it is now to what it was in the beginning, and it would be quite a change. But I do have a question for you. Patrick, are you left-handed?
Left-handed?
Yeah.
No, right-handed one.
Okay. Just wondered
What was your question? I couldn't hear.
if he
What
was
does that mean?
left-handed. If he was. the
I'm left-handed.
Are you? The reason I ask is I'm right-handed, but everything in my office is set up for a left-handed person, and I staple on the right, and that's what how a left-handed person does it. And it just struck me. He must be left-handed.
Thank you very much. I knew it was pretty.
I can
It was
draw
very
with my left-
annoying to me that it was,
I can draw with my left hand, though, too.
all right.
And I'm the only
Janet?
person in the office left that draws, so everybody else is on computers, so.
Janet?
I don't know, this is kind of tricky because it's gotten to this state with some heavy hitters on here, you know, Don Aikman and Steve and other people. And they just want to put a third bedroom on the, I don't know, I mean, I guess, what I don't understand is why it wasn't gone to, referred to Sarah, you know, a long time ago.
It was referred to.
Yeah.
Oh, all
Sarah-
along?
Sarah's
It was.
commented,
It was.
Sarah's commented on every change.
Oh,
It was referred.
so we have to refer to Sarah every time?
No, well, not every time. When we got the original application,
Yeah.
I pro forma
Yeah.
sent it to Sarah.
Okay, so it's
I didn't
gone,
realize that they changed the plans.
got it, okay. So I guess it has to go to Sarah, okay.
Well, does it have to go to Sarah? No, we could do it, but I think.
Would it
by
make you
tradition-
feel better if it goes to Sarah?
Oh, sure. If we refer it to the Cape Cod Commission, it'd be nice to know what we're getting into. And that's where it is. That's where Sarah comes from. Sarah is the preservation consultant.
Yeah, I know who she is, okay.
And she's the one who would advise the commission. So we know in advance
Okay.
where we're going.
Okay.
Yes, Stephanie, yes, sir.
I'm very bothered by the height of everything and the addition for the master bedroom. I would like to go beyond referring it to Sarah. I'd like to refer it to the Cape Cod Commission.
Okay. Nancy?
I'd like to ask a couple questions, because to me, the thing that feels significant about the additional changes is the fact, it looks like, and I wasn't here for the other ones, that in the previous changes, this idea of the frame had been, the frame was saved in the original work or the multiple work. If you look at the addition of the third story takes off, I don't know, 2/3 of what may have been the original roof line. If you look at page 15, the change from the left side to the fact that the peak in the original cottage is no longer there. There's a whole new peak that is the original cottage, if you look at that end on the left and that peak behind it, is going that way, was the original cottage. So that is not staying there. You're not even getting that same roof
I
line
think if you
and
look at
pitch.
page 18, though, I think you'll see that in three-dimension, it is staying.
I'm sorry.
If you go to page 18 on the top,
Right, so,
there, you can see that there's the gabled end is
the
still there.
gabled end is still there. The
Right.
gabled end, with the porch,
Right.
is still there. It looks like in your picture here that it's a steeper pitch. So I don't know if you're also changing that or that's just the picture. It looks like in your plans, so the porch is staying.
Yes,
Significant that that's staying. The peak behind it, which is the original cottage going that way, is new. It looks like, if you look at the plan on page 15. And I'm not going to make this too long, because I do believe we should get input from Sarah, and I think we'll probably continue this. But I would like to make these points, because if I was asking you to rethink it, this is what I would have.
see what
so
you mean.
there's also another little nuance to this whole saga, if you will.
Okay.
That currently, that expanded deck, which was approved, hadn't been built, as you see on the existing elevation. but is now under construction.
I'm sorry, what are you talking about?
the-
The deck?
The
Yeah,
deck,
I'm
the
not
deck,
worried about
well,
the
the
deck.
that you're referring to here.
No, I'm
is
not referring
here.
to that deck. I'm referring to the peak on the left.
There?
Yep, and the red line that shows where that peak was and where the new, so that was the original cottage, that peak, going that way. Okay, that was the shack. And that is being taken off. And then if we could go to the next page, page 16. Sorry. Okay. You can there see the way the cottage runs on the left, all the way down, and putting in that new story, how much of the original roof has to be taken away to build that.
Yes.
So that, to me, was the original frame. That's the part that has been retained with all the other changes. And that, to me, if we're just talking about our purview, which is saving historical structures, I think it's very in keeping with the surrounding. But our concern is the significance and the integrity of the historical structure. So my biggest problem is that there's a huge chunk of the frame that was saved during all the other changes that is now being taken away.
That's exactly what I was trying to say.
Yeah. You know, this is going to be a tough one. You know, that third story is just going to take too much away from the original structure, and I know that's what you're trying to do. And, yeah, we're going to go to Sarah, but, you know, if we were to vote right now, I think we would, you know, it would not be approved, and it would be probably referred. So I guess the only thing I would say is we'll go through the process again with your concurrence to request Sarah to look at it one more time. But it's big, and it's just not consistent with the streetscape that now exists for the current cottage.
Okay, I think Robbie would like to say a few words.
Good morning, I'm Rob Barsamian, at 75 Hallway. I saw some of you the other day.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Yeah, it's nice to see you
Again.
Just a couple things that kind of, while I was listening to everyone's comments. If we want to go back to the original structure, Bill wasn't with me at the time, but Mike Ford was. It was a condemned structure. They were going to take the structure down. I actually asked them not to take the structure down, and I rebuilt the structure. So it was boarded up. There was a fire inside the structure, and everything that we built in 2006 to 2009 virtually was new. There was no original house, zero, nothing left. There was a fire inside. There was no timbers. There was no roof structure. And when we met in 2006, I think it was with Sarah's first letter, we kind of walked through that, and the two important elements to her at that time wasn't the roof line. It was basically two elements. There was a hip on the entrance to the door, and there was in this plan here, if you see the back of the house, that little gable piece had some resemblance of the original shack. So those are the two elements that were critical from her point of view at that time. In 2015, we kept those two elements, but we just lifted the house. So we kind of kept the two elements that were important to Dawn and the other group at the time, and Sarah. When I got Sarah's letter, the first letter, I called her and we went through kind of the history of it. And she said, you know, she was happy that we talked. She obviously said, okay, that does make a difference. And I said to Patrick, look, there's a couple issues that I'm hearing, not officially hearing, at a party or someone saying something that, you know, the massing was too big. So we lowered that to address that. You can only lower it so much before you can't live in it, right? And so we lowered it to a certain extent. So, you know, I don't really like no good deed goes unpunished, because that's really not where I think we're at. We had a structure that was supposed to be condemned that we kind of saved. We rebuilt. We kept everything we could. And then we have been expanding it a variety of times for a variety of reasons. We had a much, much bigger house. We had a footprint that went back to the original house. The L, that's really what I wanted. In the beginning, all I wanted from day one was, can I build what was there? And, you know, there was a lot of back and forth. The neighborhood wasn't developed. everyone on the street didn't do something to their house, which has been done in the last 10 years. If you go back and look at my shack at that time and you look at all the other houses, they're all different. The dormers are different, the roof lines are different, some have basements, some raise the roof, some put garages in, et cetera, et cetera. So just about every house, other than maybe 2 or 3 of them, really have changed what they are. And so as our family grew, you know, one of the things I said to Patrick, how do we make it feel like it was always there based on what's there today? And that's how we kind of surgically came up with saying, okay, let's not rip the whole thing apart. Let's just kind of put something on the top and see if we can make it work and keep the elements that Sarah said in 2006, 2009, 2015 that were important to this board. And we did that. So am I adding something? Of course, or else we wouldn't be here. Did we think about all the things you guys talked about? We did. And so we came up with this. So anyways, that's just a little bit of the background. My conversation with Sarah was great. She was appreciative of it. Basically, she said, you know, try to work it out with you guys. You guys are saying, okay, let's send it back to her. So that's fine. We can kind of do that again, and then we can talk about it a little bit more. But, you know, there's a lot of history here. It took me 9 years to build the cottage that was condemned that they said I had to take down, that I was paying taxes on. And so I didn't take it down. I kept it because of the historical significance, and I thought I was doing it. So no good deed goes unpunished. Maybe I should have taken it down. There you go.
Well, you probably wouldn't have been allowed, but that's another story.
Well, they were forcing us to
Thank you
do
very
it.
much. No, I really do appreciate your comments, and I appreciate the fact that, you know, you reached out to Sarah and tried to find some accommodation, or rapprochement, if we will, so we could get this resolved. And you're right, I've been on this commission about 20 years, and I've seen the changes in that street, okay? And you're right, we have allowed a lot of changes on that street to allow people to come into the 21st century, okay, to make things. But we try very hard to maintain the streetscape, maintain some of the scale. And yeah, some of the houses but they were bigger, okay? They were bigger to begin with than your cottage that you bought. And I thank you very much for putting in the time and the money, and these 2 characters you got next to you, the time and the money, you know, to do what you're doing, and we do appreciate that. The Chatham is Chatham because there are people like you. People like you who love the town, have a beautiful spot, and want to preserve it. This one, we're having this changed, and I've been through every one of them that you've made over the time, and we have tried to accommodate, and hopefully we could. So I think at this particular point, without belaboring it, I would like to ask the members of the commission that we ask this to be continued to our next meeting, and then we could come to some conclusion. Okay?
Sure.
I'd like to
Yes,
ask him
yes,
another
I
question.
think that's the right path.
All right, so look, at this particular
Sorry,
point, I'm going to entertain a motion
Can I ask him a quick question? I'm
No.
sorry.
I have a
go ahead.
Okay, because
Quick.
we've got you here.
Sure.
Can we go back to page 15? Because we talked to you at the site visit. One thing is, I think getting what Sarah told you in writing would be very helpful to us.
Great.
So that's why we're going back.
We're going to do
Yes,
that.
right, okay.
There's a lot of conversation.
I was at
What's
the
your
site
question?
visit. You noted that the gable end and the porch were things that Sarah had noted to you. And I would just say that gable end is being changed, and that maybe that should really be something that you guys think about. If we're trying to save the integrity of the historic structure, of the pitches, of the things that are still there and recognizable, not changing that gable end might be something.
Okay,
Consider.
let's not get into that detailed discussion. We have a whole nother meeting to do, and I would really like
Frank?
a motion.
Excuse me, I have a question
Point
about
of
the
order?
motion. A point of order, please.
Yes, ma'am.
And it concerns the next meeting. The next meeting is Election Day. So when are we continuing in this to?
We don't have a meeting on Election Day.
Right,
It will be
exactly.
November 15th.
Okay, November 15th.
Yes, she would correct. Thank you. I love it. All right, please, a motion. Mr.
We're all going to be voting on election day.
I already voted by mail, I'm done.
Could I just ask, Mr. Riley, before we continue it to November 15th, does that Okay,
Yes, absolutely.
okay.
So that's.
Thank you.
Okay, so Friday?
Then I move the Historical Commission continue this hearing until,
November 15th is a Friday, according to this.
It's a Friday. November 15th is a
It's-
Friday, I think.
November 19th, excuse me.
19th.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Riley.
What did we do before we had these things?
I move the Chatham Historical Commission continue this case until November 19th, 2024, with the concurrence of the applicant.
Yes.
Yes.
I'll second.
Thank you. Bob,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes,
Sandy,
Yes.
Janet,
Yes.
Robert,
Yes.
Chair votes yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have just a couple of quick things and we can let everybody go. The demolition by neglect, and this is interesting, you know, this is another one where there was a cottage that was boarded up and left and luckily somebody came in and took care of it. Christine O'Grady is continuing to do work on it, assembling various, what do you call, bylaws from other towns, and we'll hope to get together soon, provide some kind of guidance on where do we want to proceed. So other than that, there's really nothing else to report on the demolition by neglect. I would say we did have a conversation with myself and Christina and Christine and Ms. Katie Donovan, and the subject came up, and I, you know, there was some comment, well, how extensive is this problem? And off the top of my head, I think I pointed out to the house on Main Street that is currently being lifted and moved on its new foundation. Now, that's a good example of a house that reached that point because it was neglected. Now, luckily, somebody is there and they're going to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars to save it. But that house got in as disrepair as it was because it was just neglected. Then I received a number of calls from people on the one on Crowell Road, which was demolished, which was another good example. And my friend Steve Burlingame, I know he was close to that one, and, you know, that was another one. And so there are houses, and then, of course, we just lost the house. We, the town of Chatham, lost an historic house on Main Street in West Chatham. Unfortunately, it was the purview of the HBDC. The house was in disrepair. Well, they tore it down, and there was no attempt to try and save the house, but I got to be careful talking about the other boards and commissions, but I was not happy with that one coming down. West Chatham's turning into a boatyard now. Anyway, so I think it's something, I know some members of the commission feel strongly about it, that we have to continue to keep in the public's eye. The issue of the updating of the survey plans, I had a meeting, telephone conversation meeting, Teams meeting with Ms. Katie Donovan, and some funding has been identified for us to proceed. What I had a meeting and I ended up with an action item. So Christina and I'm giving her, she's going to pull her into it, need to put together a plan on how to proceed. We don't have enough money at one time to do everything, so we need to sequence what we want to do. And I think an example today of what just happened with that cottage community, that one is documented in some ways, but there are other cottage communities which are not documented. And we'd love to save them, but if we are going to lose them for some reason, it'd be nice to know what was there. And so that's something, we're talking about area forms, and I believe the priorities that the commission voted was to take care of the new ones first, and then worry about updating the old ones. So I'm going to try and break that out with some help from Christine and from Eric Dre, our preservation consultant, and provide that plan of action, if you will, and then subsequent funding plan, a funding profile to Katie to proceed. I'd also say that it is possible that some of those tasks could be applicable for a Mass Historic Commission planning grant. Unfortunately, the town has really not taken advantage of those because it requires work. It's not big money, it's $20,000, $30,000, but right now, it's been 3 years for me to try to get that $20,000, $30,000. So it'd be nice if we could find a long-term plan to get those grants. I'm expecting the survey update from Holly Herbster of from PAL. Can you do me a favor, remind her the contract is over in a couple of weeks, and we need that report. Once we get that report, we would then, hopefully with your concurrence, submit a request to Mass Historic to list the Nickerson, William and Ann Nickerson Homestead site as a eligible National Register site. Speaking of that, I just quickly, again, Nancy, just a quick aside, because you did raise a point. You're right. If a contributing structure is in a National Register district, more than 25%, or we consider it that the historical significance was lost, it's a mandatory, it can be a mandatory referral. When a district is, or a property is found eligible, Cape Cod Commission, through its legal staff, has determined, yes, even though it's only in an eligible area, it is referable to the Cape Cod Commission, discretionary referral. Mandatory, the commission has. Discretionary referral is, we can recommend to the town or town fathers, and they are the ones who would have to refer it. So it's an extra step. I just wanted to clarify that for you and for the public, whoever's listening. Coast Guard Boathouse, things are still proceeding, and hopefully we'll get that thing moving in another year or so. That's all I really have. I don't think there's anything else to report about the demolition delays expiring. Anything happening that I need to know about? Christine? No?
They're all updated.
So we still have a couple of applications, a couple of properties that could be demolished because their demolition delays have expired. That's all I have. Anybody else have anything else they want to add or think about for a future agenda item? Okay, I will comment with the loss of Steve. At our next meeting, I think we need to make some recommendations for changes and possibly moving Robert up to a full membership if you're so moved. And
So moved.
again, we need to do that, and as well as think about replacements for the two alternate slots. Having said that, motion for adjournment?
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call. Bob?
Yes, sir.
Nancy?
Yes.
Steph?
Yes.
Sandy?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
And the chair votes yes. Thank you very much. Are we off the air?
No.